Welcome back, Rebels.
Adam Brazier.
David Speed.
I was thinking about you today.
Well, yeah, that's sweet.
I was thinking about how much I dislike you. No, not really. I was thinking about how so different we are. We're like polar opposites, because there's a bit coming up in this week's episode where we sort of talk about how different we are, and like whether that's a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to like working with your mates, working like in a business. And I was just thinking about you and about how lucky it is that you understood that you're a creative, because I think when we take all of your skill sets and like how, because I'm just fucking all over the place, I'm like blah blah blah, whatever's going on. You're very like organized and analytical, and you look at figures and data and everything has to be in a straight line, and you're very like that, and like we're just so different. You're the kind of personality type that could get like labeled as not creative, which would fuck you up. Like if you were in that box of thinking that you weren't creative, it would like destroy everything.
Yeah, completely. Because like at school I was like maths and physics very kind of like ordered, and I think it was only because like my parents and like my granddad like buying me this drawing thing when I was really young, basically getting me started really early, that made me feel like, oh, this is something that I can do. And I remember being at school and being like the one who could draw well, who could draw cartoons well at school. So it was always like reinforced as being like, you're the one who can draw. And that was never from being like a creative person. And like, I suppose my dad's a designer, so he always kind of really instilled that in me. And I think creativity, it's not just being able to draw and being that creative thing. It's the problem solving element. And I think that's one thing that was instilled in me quite a lot, because my dad was an engineer. It was, well, why is that made? Why does that work like that? Like, how does this work? And I think it was almost that analytical kind of data geekiness that kind of forced me down that creative route.
And I suppose curiosity equals creativity.
Yeah. I was always that kid to, if our VHS machine broke, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to take it to pieces, just see if I can fix it. Like no electrical skills at all, but I'm just going to strip it down to see if I can. Most of the time it wouldn't work, but every now and again I would do something and something would then work again. It was like, oh, well, that was great. So I'm going to keep doing that, because the reward I get mentally from problem solving just seemed to work really well. Because I never really saw art as just something creative that happens in your head. For me, it was always more of a technical practice.
What's really interesting is that when we met 10 years ago and I started teaching you how to paint with spray paint, I had my ways of like, this is how you paint, and I presented it to you. And what you really taught me was you didn't just accept what I said as gospel, which I accepted what I said as gospel. I was like, this is the way it's done. And you started going on YouTube and looking at the best painters in the world and replicating their techniques. And then you started teaching me stuff that I wasn't doing, which was wild to me, because I never looked anywhere outside of my own circle of just people that I was painting with. And so I like, as a creative, was like actually very pigeonholed.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, like, as a creative, to look in different areas. Like, I remember when I first started spray painting, I was looking at videos on like Photoshop painting, like airbrushing, anything that was kind of some form of art form. I was like, well, how are these other people doing it? What can we bring to spray paint that would make things easier for us, that would allow us to do things more realistically, like take things to another level? And I think because of that constant like need for analyzing and kind of like assessing and trying to improve on everything,
trying to crack a puzzle, like trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, then it's always like there is a solution out there somewhere, you just got to find it. Because I believe that there's very few things that haven't been done before, whether that's exactly what you're doing or some form of it in a different profession or a different industry. So I think it's so worth like looking around, because you never know what you're going to find somewhere else. It's like little techniques I learned from airbrushing, just, well, I've never airbrushed, but from watching airbrush tutorials, I was like, wow, that's a profession that's been going on for a lot longer than spray paint at that level of detail. So of course there's things we can learn from that, because like they've been doing it for years. They can create amazingly realistic stuff. So let's just change up that a little bit so it works for us.
Yeah, and people can get very stuck in just doing what they're doing and not really looking to the outside. And I think that's something where sort of when it comes to like social media and like growth on social media, I think most people just do the expected route. There's very obvious ways of like posting online, and I don't think they work anymore, because I think we're all cynical, and it just doesn't work. And I think the way to break through on social media now is to present something new that people haven't seen before, or present something old but in a fresh way, because we're just so tired and we've seen everything. So you need to be looking around and seeing like what's working elsewhere and how you can apply that to what you do.
So with social media, I think you can look at what's happened before, and people were evolving and getting popular and getting noticed and getting their stuff out there before social media existed. And you can still take those principles into what's happening now. And yes, it's always hard to create new stuff, but as you said there, it's like, instead of trying to create something new, just take two things and mix them together. Like take something traditional, old, that has been done before. So for example, go looking around churches and look at stained glass windows. And then if you're really into basketball, how can you merge those two things together? How can you create basketball inspired art in a stained glass window style? Like there's literally anything you can mash together, that by mixing the two, that's how you create something unique, because it's going to be really hard to just think of something that's brand new off the top of your head, because it doesn't really happen like that. And even if you look at people who have been successful, their aesthetic is formed from the people that they've consumed in the past. So I think by surrounding yourself with different things, combining things that haven't been done before, especially if you can get two things that are popular within a certain niche, combine those, then you're probably going to have an even better impact going forward.
It's funny you mentioned stained glass windows. There's an Instagram account that I follow who makes stained glass windows, but from Nintendo characters, and it's just like
amazing.
It's just such a just such a weird mix of worlds brought together, and it works. It's like he's doing amazingly well, and is his full-time job is producing custom Super Mario stained glass windows for people. It's amazing. And once you find that creativity on your social media and you're able to express that to other people, I think that's when you'll start to notice the uptick. And in the beginning it is so hard, but when I scroll through the videos for Zach and Jay, which is this week's guests, they're so creative, and they've got their reason for the channel existing. They want to do fun shit, they want to just go cool places and do things, and they want to create fun content that people find funny and there's just entertaining. And so when you look through their videos, it's like sneaking into Fashion Week, it's writing letters to every mansion in a certain area of London. And by writing those letters to people in mansions, they manage to get into someone's mansion. And it's just all of the things that we're too scared to do. They just sit down and they brainstorm and they go, okay, how are we going to do some cool shit this week? And then they work out how to make it happen.
I think that's it. It's the not stopping at, well, that's not possible. It's having an idea and then just rolling with it, thinking, well, this is my idea. As stupid as it sounds, how can we make this actually happen? Like if we want to go into every mansion in London, well, how could we do that? And then it's like, well, actually, if we just approached them and sent them letters, then maybe that would happen. And
I think the letters is a clever touch as well, because most people would think, oh, let me try and find an email address, and that's obviously not going to get through. If you knock on the door, that you're going to look like a psycho. So it's like a handwritten letter is actually, you don't receive, that's actually a novelty nowadays. So by going that route, I think is actually a very smart way in.
It's not letting yourself get like held up by your own thoughts and thinking, oh, well, that's not possible. I might look stupid. I might get a no. I might get a rejection, and just going for it. Because I think that's what these guys have done. They've just gone for it all the time. And I feel like that's where their success has come from, because they've just been like, we're going to do this. It's going to happen. Like when we first met them like a year and a half ago, they basically said to us, this is going to happen by this point. And they were so determined, and they did it. And they just kept going. And then it's amazing to see where they've got to now.
Yeah, they've done so well. And this interview is it's so much more measured and calculated and more kind of tactical than the first interview that we did with them. And you can see how much they've grown as like creative business people. And it's really inspiring to see. So Zach and Jay are YouTube content creators. The duo have produced many, many viral videos, and their channel, The Zach and Jay Show, currently sits at over 700,000 subscribers. It seems as though they've discovered the cheat code for life, because basically their job is to go on mad adventures, meet cool people, and create stories to tell their grandkids.
In this episode, we talk about going viral, Ed Sheeran, and believing in yourself.
There's absolutely absolutely no cost to having the belief that you can do it, and there's just so much upside to having it.
Hi, Zach and Jay.
Hello.
Hello, gents.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Were we the first podcast you guys ever did?
I mean, it must have been.
I think it was, right?
No, it was
Good shout, that. I think
we,
it actually was, yeah.
Yeah, we started the channel in September the 27th, and then you guys was early December, so no one gave a shit about us.
I think you guys maybe had like 30,000 followers at the time, like subscribers on YouTube at the time. So it was like, yeah, you were established, but you were still kind of new.
Yeah, I think the most recent video that I remember seeing at the time was when you did like a banner outside your house.
So I think we will have just passed 100k for that, right?
Yeah, that was 100k, that video. That was well after we interviewed them.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I remember that video. Well, how's it going?
All good, mate. Yeah, good. The plan's working out. Can't remember.
That's the thing, because it's so interesting. Like, because our chat was like, it was really interesting getting that kind of view from you guys of you were like, Zach had his personal channel and you were kind of like, you'd experimented with things there and you knew like you were kind of working out how to go viral. And it's quite funny because you guys basically like were giving the advice that we never give is like, be lazy and try and go viral, and you were like, can't be fucked to do hard work, just gonna work out how to go viral and do it that way. And like, and which is amazing because like if you can do that right, then it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And like literally, yeah. So seeing the growth from when you like laid out like this is how we're gonna do it, and it's happened, it's come true.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of figured out in doing that the virality is fucking hard work. Like it felt like such a long old slog to get to the point of like monetizing the channel. That is all we were focused on. Like literally from day one, we were like, we got 6 months worth of money each. With 6 month contract on a house in London, like let's fucking give it a best go. It was literally like month 5 where.
But it's not that long though, is it? Like
no, but I think we were like in the trenches at that point, and we weren't doing anything socially. We almost like were isolating. Just trying to make it work, and literally like, yeah, because we couldn't afford to do anything else. So yeah, it felt like that was like a fucking long old slog, and you look back at it now and you're like, fuck me. Like,
was there points at that time when you thought like this might not actually happen? We might run out of money.
We having a chat with George Bettany, who's like a mentor friend. He runs like a mental health startup near you guys actually in the T building.
It's called Sanctus. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
Oh yeah. They're working with Paul McGregor, I think, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like you book in therapists who come into your work, and then employees can like anonymously chat with them for 45 minutes and let off stress, or I don't know, talk about anything really. Cool company. Met him in Manchester, and yeah, he's kind of been a part of the story ever since the beginning, really. Yeah.
So we kind of met him just as did we put out the Fashion Week vid or not? Or was it was just before we had put out the Max vid, and we were kind of like. We were just like discussing the options, and he was like, "Guys, have you thought of like a plan B? Have you like figured out what you're gonna do if that money does go to zero?" And we were kind of like, "No, not really." Like I kind of just assumed that I'd start doing freelancing again, and Jay was gonna like, I don't know, maybe work at a pub or something.
Yeah, I was gonna work at a pub or then move to my cousin's house in London, which is North London, so about an hour away.
Yeah, which would have made shit a whole lot harder.
It's kind of the same with us, like when we started our business. And I don't really recommend people do it that way. But like when you've got no other choice but to make the thing work and you haven't really thought about what your backup plan is, then it does bring out magic in people. It does force you to do stuff. Because we did a call with someone the other day, and I was kind of laying out this theory of like, if you give yourself like, this has to be a success or I will die, then like you're going to make it a success.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But most people like let themselves off the hook and go, okay, I've got plan B in the back, and they're already preparing for the failure without it failing. And it's like, if you just go balls out. And also I want to apologize, so I didn't mean to be a dickhead and say like that you were lazy and your YouTube happened by accident. I do understand there's a lot of fucking hard work and planning that goes into it.
It was but it is a kind of like a fucking shortcut. That was kind of like our growth hack, if you were, like that was our strategy from day one. And yeah, I said that multiple times I think on the podcast, was like, I cannot see us literally busting out videos every week for 3 years to build like an audience. Like that just wasn't how it was ever going to go, really.
It was mainly to the other videos were kind of just there so that we had like a diversified content plan, and like for our audience, we weren't known for just sticking to the viral stuff, where if we weren't constantly doing viral stuff, they'd kind of not watch us. So the other content was to just kind of keep them warm and keep them engaged with us in a load of different ways. But the viral stuff was to kind of put us on the map and grow us massively.
I was going to ask you about that actually, because like it must be a difficult thing because if you just become known for like, for example, like sneaking into places, then I guess with that you have to kind of like keep upping the ante, because people would be like, oh, I've seen it. So it's like, I guess it's the same for us with the podcast. Like when we get a big guest, we know that means an influx of new listeners. But if you don't then engage them with what you're saying, then they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, you had to get them to fall in love with the characters of Zach and Jay rather than just the act of like doing something really ballsy.
Yeah, and we've seen it like play out. Like even on my personal channel, like it was like 90% sneaking in, then just whatever the fuck I kind of wanted to make. If I was on holiday with mates, like it was just kind of, there was no real direction, but I was the sneaking in guy, and that like creatively was like a little bit exhausting, because you'd only really want to do stuff like, it was hard doing it by yourself, one, and like when people expected that and didn't give a shit about your other stuff, you're like, oh, you just felt a bit like pants about it. So I think we were very particular from the get-go, just to like, first 4 videos were just all completely different, and we kind of said that since, like we just want to give people, like keep people on their toes like every week pretty much.
Well, I feel like your brand is your name, so it needs to be people care about who you are rather than just the things that you do, because if it was just the things that they do, they could go and watch anyone and like there would be no loyalty there. People wouldn't come back to see what it was, no matter what it was. And so I feel like that's a really clever thing. And I think going back to what I was going to say earlier is, even like if you took the term viral out of it, it's still a really clever content plan in terms of, it's the same as what businesses do all the time. To get an influx of customers, they'll hold a big event. It's like Glastonbury, for example. It's like they sell tickets once a year and they get a huge influx to come to it at that point. But then the rest of the year, it's not like Glastonbury, no one talks about it. And it's like they'll still be posting content. They'll still be kind of like teasing it. But then it peaks at that point. And I feel like if they didn't say anything all year and then it just happened, you wouldn't get that mad rush of ticket sales that you would do before, because there's no build-up hype. So I feel like having that, if you just went high all the time, it wouldn't be sustainable. Whereas having that kind of the peaks and troughs is a really important thing.
And we've seen it kind of, we were kind of lucky because we've come to YouTube not late, but later in the game than a lot of creators. And those guys were rinsing stuff which was semi-illegal, running into supermarkets, pranking people. And like they made a load of money off it. Oh, not loads of money, but they made good money off it. And then moved out to LA and got the Range Rover. And they don't want to be doing that anymore because they've been fined. They've had kind of warnings from the police. And suddenly their audience don't want to see, they've seen this guy who's a crazy mental person who's larger than life telling police to F off. And then suddenly he's taking his kid to nursery in his Range Rover in LA. It's not really the kind of content that he signed up for. And suddenly it starts nosediving, and before you know it, it's kind of a bit too late to change, really. So yeah, we're keen on getting it on the way.
I suppose that's interesting, because when I think about viral videos that people have sent me or showed me like on their phone and thought this is funny, I can remember what happened in those videos, but I can't remember who the people were who did it.
Interesting.
So I think that's a really important thing to try and get across, because it's like, and I think that's why it's clever that you were called the Zach and Jay Show, because it's like if you were just called, say, Yes Theory, for example, there's not a name attached to that, so I might see it and then not necessarily remember who it was. Whereas as soon as you have people's names attached to it, by growing a personal brand around it and not just having content that is just, this is a silly thing, but the people who are presenting it, you don't care about.
I think like YouTube is kind of founded on like the individuals, and people form really deep relationships with the people that they're watching week in, week out. And I think that's kind of different to TV, is probably part of why YouTube is so popular with kind of our generation, really. So yeah, I think like, the name thing as well. And we're still working on it. I mean, like we're still trying to get ourselves across more, build out the community. Like Yes Theory's manager, that he calls them like the mum fans, like the ones who will support you, whatever you do, like they'll just kind of be there. we're kind of like just started an email list. Like we're really trying to like increase the amount that people kind of see us, because our videos are kind of one sort of version of us, which is like the high energy kind of doing this, that, and other. But there are like, we are kind of just like chilling guys who fucking like to listen to music and kind of like podcasts, and we don't really feel like that's necessarily across so much on the video.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of people are always messaging us like, "Oh, I'd love to go on an absolute mad one with Zach and Jay." And I remember when we were receiving them, we weren't going out very much at all. We must be giving something off that we're just mad head cases that go around London all the time, just getting drunk and just like, I don't know. It's just like, no.
What was the decision making behind starting the mailing list? Because I noticed that recently when you started talking about that in videos, and I kind of thought like that's so different. Like I've never watched another YouTuber before that's then said join my mailing list. Like what brought around that decision?
There's two reasons really. One, like, is kind of just the tangible asset of having a mailing list, and when we get merch, we'll be able to sell to them. But then the other side of things is more on the engagement side, where it's kind of like we do like 12, 15 minutes of high energy stuff every single week. You know exactly what you're tuning in for, and we're kind of okay with that. But we have got kind of other facets to us where we can tell you about cool business books. Every email has got a cool kind of thought-provoking quote on there. We can mention a cool creator from around the world. We can show you a music artist we think is cool. Like people can respond to us and let us know how they think it is. And we're looking to do probably a Facebook group as well, or we're looking at Discord, like some sort of like community, like back and forth thing where our community can chat with each other and stuff. So it's just kind of expanding out on kind of who we are, what we do, why we do it, just in another channel that's not on kind of Instagram or YouTube where you're dictated by an algorithm. This is just a bit more kind of direct, really.
Yeah, I feel like having those two separate platforms can be really powerful, because there's a guy called Matt Diavella who's got quite big on YouTube now. I've consumed a lot of his content for a long time and I think he's great. And I subscribe to his Patreon, and his Patreon is nothing like his YouTube. It's more him personally, so it's more like you get who he is. And I feel like that's a nice balance almost, but to have that, your main platform that is the things that you put out and it's kind of what people know you for, but if people want to get to know you better, there is somewhere that they can go and do that as well. And I feel like it's those people that you're going to get the most from, because they're your mum fans. And I think that reminds me of when you did those 100k coins, like you did 1,000 of them, and obviously Kevin Kelly talks about having 1,000 true fans, and once you've got those are the people who are going to support you forever. And the fact that you managed to make 1,000 and sell 1,000 it's almost like you've already got those 1,000 true fans. You managed to kind of hack your way to that really quickly.
Like, when we were planning that, we had no idea on like how many to order. And I think Jay was just like 1,000 seems like a fucking great, was just doing the maths on it. He was like, if we sell these, that's great. And it fucking shows something about the audience. Because like the idea behind them is like, we were getting so many comments early on saying here before they blow up, here before 10k. And people kind of remembered when they joined the channel. And when you hit 100k, it's like the first milestone on YouTube, and it's like the audience don't really get anything to show for that, even though they like saying they were the ones there early. So it was mad, because it was literally just after Max, because the viral kind of video, because everything just like, we had the idea at 50k actually, so our samples were 50k club, and that isn't much of a milestone now looking back on it, because it kind of like the 100k, 200k and 300k happened in 2 weeks. So by the time we had done the viral video, the growth had just like went through the fucking roof, and then we had to move house to this place. So like we were trying to juggle all this shit, and I remember we literally stayed up for like 24 hours in the lead up to the launch of those coins, just to like get them through and sorted, and it was just like such a mad time in our lives. Like, and then packaging them up, we had literally like stacks in this living room now, like just set hand packaging them all out. But that was really cool, just to see, like, and I think people appreciated it. It was just something completely intrinsically worthless, but like it meant something individually to all those people, which was like really cool to see.
What was your marketing strategy to actually get those out? Because you must have thought, fuck, 1,000 coins are going to cost me quite a bit of money to produce. I need to try and sell these because I don't want to be out of pocket.
To be honest, so the whole thing, the reason the coins came about was we had so many comments all the time tuning in saying, we were here, or you guys are going to be massive, you guys are going to be massive, we're here before everyone else. And I kind of did say, like, well, how can we basically, this is a strong emotion that all our viewers are feeling, like how can we convert that into something that they can own and have, and like certificates type things. And we were thinking like, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the belt system is a real thing that shows the dedication. Yeah. And we were like, yeah, what could we do with YouTube plaques? People get 100k plaques, they get 1 million plaques, but the viewers don't get anything. So yeah, these coins were kind of like that middle ground, which are affordable for us to buy. Could really have viewers show that they were there from day one, which is why the 100k coins did really well and everyone was select. I think more than any other merch I've seen on YouTube, I've never seen that people more proud to own it. So maybe people bought more t-shirts and wore more t-shirts, but I don't know if they were as proud and like shared like the personal notes we put in and the coins, they're hanging up, people framed them. So yeah, that was quite cool. I think we kind of nailed that kind of messaging of like pride from early doors. But with the actual financial cost of it, they didn't actually cost that much to make. Like 20% of the cost was actually like in making one, so it was the mold, and the rest was kind of very flexible and pretty cheap. So we were kind of defensive and attacking with it, and kind of said, you know, it's going to cost us more if we'd sell an extra 100. There's £1,500 cost in £15 revenue. Yeah, it would have cost us more to not sell or to have a kind of a low supply and high demand than it would to have a higher supply than demand. So we kind of went for 1,000, but luckily that was kind of a good enough figure to sell it anyway. So
it's so smart to notice like a comment that is just like part of internet culture now is like first comment. That's a thing that people just say. And as far as I know, up until this point, no one has ever taken advantage of that before, because it just becomes background noise, and you don't really think that there's a person behind, and the psychological reason of them wanting people to know in the comments that they were the first to comment, or that they knew you from when you were a smaller channel. And it's such a weird like thing that most people would just ignore. So I think that's super smart that you jumped on that.
Yeah, and it's also quite nice as well. Like we sent out the email list to those guys first. Like we had a little thank you video in there. All the comments like, oh my god, this is amazing. And they are genuinely literally like the day one fans, and there's no kind of ignoring that. Like we came at the side when we had 30,000 subscribers or something, and kind of they bought it. We did have over 100,000 subscribers when they were kind of actually available, because we grew quite quickly after that Maximus Bucharest video. But they are kind of very much the early fans who kind of put the money where their mouth is and are still with us now. So it is cool.
Well, I hope you feel the same way about the early podcasts that support you.
I'm going to listen to it after. That's cool, yeah.
Yes, some say featuring on that podcast is what actually got them to 100k.
I can't wait to see a few months after this when it hockey sticks again.
Yeah, well, when it happens.
Damn right. So how important is it for you guys to be doing like regular content? Do people like expect videos, and do they get pissed off if they're not delivered?
It's interesting because that's like a current debate that we're kind of like toying with the idea of making it a bit more relaxed, because we felt like a few of our videos recently they've been amazing concepts, but the weekly tie, and we've just kind of been blindly doing it because that's what we thought consistency was key early on, which it was. But the logic is just founded on like the vlogging kind of culture. Casey Neistat, all those guys who literally grew, and the algorithm's kind of changed now. So I don't know if that's the move anymore. But like creatively, the ideas have sometimes lacked a bit of oomph at the end, like satisfaction when you can watch a video and you're like, that was amazing. I feel like they've just teetered off a little bit as a result of not having that extra like freedom with the time. So yeah, I mean, you see Josh Peters, Archie Manners, they're kind of just, whenever this idea pulls through, they'll upload, and that could be 4 or 5 months. But people are waiting kind of on their seat for the next one. So yeah, we don't kind of really know, but we're willing to experiment. Like we're kind of just playing with the idea now, and we're not really scared to. We're just as long as we keep people updated with what's kind of going on.
Yeah, I think that's mainly on the YouTube side. Though I do think it's important to keep people engaged in the other areas of life and things like the email list, where people are still tuning in and checking out the music artists that we recommend, checking out the podcasts, the books, and like stuff like they're still touching like the brand, or they're still touching Zach and Jay and what we're about without necessarily tuning into the weekly videos.
What would you say to someone who's like kind of early on in their journey? Like that's not a point where they can take their foot off the gas, right?
It depends. Like I think if it was just Zach, he'd probably like just focusing on viral videos is probably the best option instead of just as much regular content as possible. I think like Gary Vee and Steve Bartlett and all that shit, they just scream daily vlogs, and I see people to this day just doing so many daily vlogs and just no one tunes in. And I just think unless you're attracting people into your little funnel of daily vlogs, then it's not going to go anywhere. Like, just doing daily vlogs on its own just isn't going to happen. And Casey Neistat talked about when he started video making, he'd do one a week, and then he started doing one a day, and he just started absolutely hockey sticking. And I just think that was such a different time when the internet is just so clogged now that like more isn't necessarily best. Like there's quite a few YouTubers that are coming out of the works of like Josh Peters and Archie Manners when they did the Katie Hopkins prank. They do a video every 3 months, and every single one's getting over 5 million views, and it's growing by 50,000 subscribers with every video. And that kind of takes patience, and you almost have to trust yourself and be okay if some don't work, and that's kind of against that more content kind of strategy.
How does it feel? Because it's like, obviously you've had videos that have gone, like you've got 200,000 subscribers off, say, one video. When you release the next one and you don't get that, does that feel disappointing in some way? Like, how do you kind of bounce up like that feeling?
I think we kind of consciously decided early on not to be like, we even were setting like targets for subscriber growth and stuff. Like, we tried not to be emotionally attached to those numbers. So like, we kind of got to around 50k, and it was kind of just like plateauing a little bit, and that was like a really frustrating time, because it felt like we were doing all the right things, but it just wasn't, for whatever reason, wasn't jumping past that next stage, and we'd had good growth up till then. So I think like that was kind of a lesson in itself, and just like in general, chatting to any creator, like when the numbers are literally always up and down, and Jay like used the analogy, it's like the kind of stock market. If you look over a period of 10 years, you're still like ending up here, but there is peaks and troughs in the everyday thing, and that's what, if you're chasing the algorithm, ultimately you're probably going to lose, because you're going to be behind it, and then it's going to veer off left, and you're going to be still figuring out where it's gone. And like we had kind of like a lull going into lockdown, where we tried a different format, 3 a week, and in terms of like subscriber growth and views, like we were straight up down, but that wasn't a reason not to experiment and try the things that we did, because again, we learned a shitload from it, and as a result realised like the importance of building out the community even more so. And yeah, we try not to, but like ultimately how your video is received and how many people want to tune in is a direct indicator of how kind of well you're doing. So I think it's a constant balance, really.
Have you ever dropped anything that you would consider a failure?
Well, the Ed Sheeran video was like a straight out failure.
Yeah.
Like,
would you say that was a failure just because you didn't actually achieve the objective of getting in front of it?
In terms of like the day of filming, our objective was to make a video where the end result was Ed Sheeran sang our theme song with us, and we didn't get that, but we still made a great video out of it, which entertained like 400, I think it might be actually like 600,000-700,000 people now. So like, is that a win? Like, people are entertained, like we still had fun doing it. Yeah, I guess that is a win.
That's a win in my book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that one's more on the storytelling, isn't it? It's like mine and Zach's journey quest to find Ed Sheeran. It didn't work. Like, is that it's not a failure of a video, but is it a failure of a mission? Maybe. I mean, it's a failure of a mission in that instance, but I think it almost like set the quest up for future, and that was like probably a year and a half ago or something like that. But we still want Ed Sheeran to sing the Zach and Jay Show intro at some stage. Don't know if it's going to happen.
And when it happens now, it's going to be huge, just because it didn't happen the first time. Yeah.
I feel like as well, for the kind of excitement of your channel, it's like by having failures on there, as in like, this didn't work, then it's at least I'm watching the video thinking like, is this or is this not going to happen? Because you know previously it has not happened. Whereas like so many things you'll watch on TV, and you're like, I know literally exactly the story of this before it's even started.
It's like on Matt Diavella's channel with where he's trying to get, he wants to interview The Rock, and like he's had listeners make like jingles about it, and The Rock's like even tweeted him about it. So it's like, it's kind of stuff's happening with it, and like it probably will happen one day, and when it does, it will just be so huge. It's the same thing. Just go on the Sheeran mission.
Like our friend Max is trying to currently track down a woman that he's called Sarah, and basically when he moved into his flat, he got a housewarming gift, which was literally just like a fancy photo frame, and it had a stock image of a woman inside it. And in lockdown, he got bored and started asking like, who actually is that woman that's lived with me in my flat for like the last year? So he started trying to track her down, and it like just in doing that, he's got so far through this mission. He was on the biggest morning like breakfast show in Australia, like putting the search out for this woman. like Finding Sarah, like his fans created a fucking subreddit for it. There's literally like people discussing this and getting behind it, and it's like that. I think that's really cool. Like to some extent, yeah, that video was a failure because he put that video out saying, "Has anyone got any information on this?" But as a result, his audience now engaged with that and is like it's still spinning, like the wheels are still in motion with it. So yeah, I think there's really cool things to be done around that.
I think the interesting thing is that you guys have kind of proven that anyone is get holdable of.
Get holdable.
You can.
That's what we say.
You can
attainable.
Yeah, anyone is attainable. Like you can get in contact with almost anyone through 60 degrees of separation, which you guys actually proved was a real thing.
It seems so mad because like we were saying this last night. We're having a few beers and kind of just like reflecting on the last few weeks, and in the last 2 weeks we collaborated with Judi Dench and Ken Jeong, like A-list celebrities, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty baffling to be fair. It's fucking fun though. What a woman Judi Dench is, and Davina. We're like mates with Davina now.
Yeah,
so weird, so weird.
Really good mates, but she's dead lovely, isn't she? Yeah, she is.
But I think like again, like our chant was kind of like in a roundabout. That was like a really obvious kind of like explicit way where we can feel like we can connect with anyone, but like our other videos are kind of like based on that fact. Like we think we can do X, we think like Ed Sheeran is reachable. So I think like there's been that kind of theme almost throughout our channel. But it was cool to like explicitly like explain the theory and just be like, this is how interconnected we really all are.
I feel like so much of it comes down to your confidence of just like, this can happen, we can do this, and just like, well, we're just going to do it. Like, what would you say to someone who doesn't have that confidence? Because I feel like for you guys now, from the outside, it seems easy. But for a lot of people, especially like younger creatives, they really struggle with that confidence to just go and ask someone, to just go and do it, because they think like, oh, well, I can't do it.
Well, what I say is there is absolutely no cost to having the belief that you can do it. And there's just so much upside to having it. You saying, oh, it sounds like it's super easy. It literally is so fucking easy to believe in yourself. You just say, oh, I reckon it's doable. Go on then, let's try. And then so it's going to work or it isn't. We tried it with the Ed Sheeran thing. We were so close, but it didn't work. Yet in every other instance of us trying something that you would think probably wouldn't work, it's just fucking worked. And you know what I mean? Like, and these things snowball. And like Zach said, we're mates with Davina now and Ken Jeong and Judi Dench. Just all of that shit sounds so unfucking believable, but you just, me and Zach said about 18 months ago, we're going to create a YouTube channel and we're going to believe that we can do it and we're going to believe these ideas can work, and they just all have.
And that does compound, there is like those self-doubting moments and stuff like that, but like we've always said, like, don't let fear kind of dictate, like that is absolutely no reason to not do something, because we are like, career-wise, we're incentivized by doing these things because we get a banging video out of it. But also, like, that is where some of the best moments of our lives have been. Like, literally, when we push each other to say, like, literally, fuck it, and like, let's see what happens. And that's kind of where the beauty actually happens, really.
I think that phrase of just saying to yourself, fuck it, is so powerful. Because I've had that in the past where I'm like, oh, and you convince your brain's telling you why you shouldn't do it. And then just that overriding fuck it is a punch in the face to that fear. And then you just go and do it.
You did that when you spoke to Gigs, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Oh, really?
It was like, yeah, we were doing a project with Gigs and I had my camera with me because I was taking pictures of like the project that we were doing. And I was like, oh, I'd really fucking like a portrait of Gigs. That would be cool. And I was like, but he was there with all of his like mates, and I was like, oh, just seems a bit awkward. And I was just like, oh no, it's fine. I don't need this picture. And I was like, I could just hear myself telling myself that this wasn't possible. And then I literally just said to myself, fuck it, and then just walked straight to him, asked him, he said yes, and got a sick picture.
I mean, literally, we just painted a massive mural for the guy, so it's not like he was going to tell you to fuck off, but
yeah.
It's like be a bit moody if he did.
Fuck off, man. Yeah, but one of the earliest, like the first ever time we kind of like snuck into a festival properly with like a little bit of planning. Like Jamie got in with like a black t-shirt, like a little lanyard, and a towel hanging out his pocket as if he worked in like a burger down. And yeah, literally a crate of water, and like sold the water in there. And then the next day, like I did like a Tesco's bag for life handle around my wrist because we found out that all the artists were wearing red wristbands. And that day we spoke to Gigs and gigs in Dizzy Rascal. Again, like we must have, looking back at it now, we were like, however old, like early 20s, and we just must have looked so obviously not like out of, like we weren't meant to be there at all.
We were just like wearing festival gear, like all the rappers and cool people at festivals who get booked there and bring all the meat. They wear like cool gear. They don't go as like festival shorts and something shirts and like funny little hats, and that's how we were looking.
Yeah, and we were backstage with Dizzy Rascal gigs, and then we were kind of just chatting to him, and then Jay was like, oh, I'm gonna ask him for a photo. Just really like, I think your words were like, I'm gonna really take the piss here. And just he was like, oh guys, can you get a photo please? And then they were like, yeah, sure. And then Jay was like, no, can you take a photo of me and my mate?
Amazing.
Like, gave him his phone
Yeah.
and to take a photo.
Yeah, Dizzy Rascal took a photo of me.
And but that same day, like Stormzy was, it was my birthday weekend, and like we chatted to Stormzy just as he came off stage, and we invited him to like a party at my house, like after that, and shit, because we were like, that's not out of the realm of possibility, because we had like a deck set up, mics and stuff, like because my mates were playing, and like the idea was just if we could get him round literally 10 minutes down the road after the festival to perform like a set on my birthday. Like that didn't seem that unreachable. It was probably really unreasonable in reflection, but like that was kind of the early shit that we were doing, just like testing the waters. And I remember when we came back, we spent all day backstage, almost didn't see any of the acts, but we were just chatting to like our favourite rappers who just seemed so like unreachable at the time. And I just remember like my girlfriend and all our other mates were like, where the fuck have you lot been? And literally me and Jay were just like, that was the best day ever. Like literally like open our mind up to like these kind of events, and these things are just like so act like you belong, and you just fucking, you'd be there like absolutely fine.
It's wild. When like lockdown and everything got announced, was it straight away were you like, okay, well we're definitely going to carry on doing videos, or did you kind of think like maybe we'll ride it out? What were you thinking?
Yeah, we pretty much thought we were going to make do a load of videos, to be honest. Like I was thinking, do I go home to Manchester? But then I was like, literally, then it would be just pretty shitty videos, and it will be 3 months or something like that. So we're like, right, we may as well double down in London. But yeah, we kind of just before it, we saw all of our content was pretty much outside beforehand anyway. And we saw that we thought everyone would be at home watching all the YouTube. So we kind of came up with this idea called Stuck Inside Show, and it'd be the world's first remote kind of talk show designed around quarantine. So we were collaborating with other YouTubers, and not in ways of just like, here's a FaceTime, let's ask them a question. We actually did like formats where they would be in the house, and it was interrelatable. So like we did an ice bath challenge and have an ice bath, and we'd send them over a list of things that they'd have to draw, and we'd have to guess what they are while they're in the ice bath, and they've got to go. So that became this massive show, and it was. Yeah, we like doubled down on the regularity. It was all very replicable formats of like 10-minute episodes and 3 episodes a week. And we were like, right, people are going to be stuck inside. There's going to be no, like the content is going to go down. There's no football on. There's no one's going to be making videos outside. So this is going to absolutely shine. And we kind of doubled down on it 3 weeks, did about 10 episodes. And they just kind of, I think what we found is just so many people just pushed so much content on the internet, whether it was TikToks at home, whether it was streaming, that when we thought YouTube was going to like be absolutely massive, it kind of wasn't. And a lot of creators had their views fluctuate, go down and up. And when we thought everyone was going to be tuning in religiously because we were so damn bored, it just kind of wasn't the case. And we also thought that we wouldn't be able to come up with like big ideas while being inside. But kind of throughout that process, within the 3 weeks, we did think of big ideas that we couldn't execute if we were doing such regular kind of videos of 3 a week. So we kind of eased off that, and now back to the bigger videos, and back to kind of normal views, like the Zoom calls of Judi Dench, like 500,000 views, and the Zoom call with like Ken Young's 200,000 views in a day. So we're kind of just getting back to the kind of the sick ideas we can do from the confines of our own house.
And with the kind of conception of ideas, do you kind of just randomly think of them, or do you actually sit down and properly have a session where we say, okay, for example, the next 2 hours, we're just going to brainstorm?
Yeah, we're trying to do it like more regularly now. Like before, we've always kind of had like a long list of ideas, but we've never really replenished that list like properly. Yeah, it feels like that list is never, like that list never goes down at all. But now we're doing weekly ideation sessions where like, you just got to bring an idea or a thought starter, and then we'll kind of put on a song and write down like either a list of names, like targets, events, countries, whatever, and then we'll kind of brainstorm off of those kind of ideas really. But yeah, we're trying to do that weekly, and I think, like, to be honest, the more you do that, the more excited you get about ideas. Like in the last 2 weeks, in those brainstorms, we've only had like 1 or 2 good ideas come out of them, but like the ideas really fucking exciting, and they got bumped straight to the top of like the ones we want to put out. So yeah, I think like Mr. Beast is like, he says most of his time is spent on ideas. Like they flick through dictionaries, brainstorm ideas on certain words, and like his videos are all on the idea. And I think like our channel is based around the concepts and ideas, and we don't like doing stuff more than like a few times really, unless it's really fucking fun or it works very well. So I think, yeah, like it's really important for our channel specifically as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you say there, and I definitely can like relate to the fact that yes, if you make a list of things of one brainstorm session, you're only really going to be excited about a few, and then as you start making your way down the list, you're like, oh, well, I'm doing this because it's on this list, not because I actually want to do it. And I think people need to reassess their kind of situations a lot more and be like, well, is this actually exciting me, or am I just doing this because I feel like I should do it because it's the next thing on the list? And really reevaluating like, well, is this important to me? Do I actually really want to do this?
Yeah, I think now we've started looking at more of like a sales funnel where like you could be working on closing 2 clients, which is like doing the videos. Yet if you're not going to put in things in at the top, they won't kind of filter down where you kind of get those sales. So we have enough ideas if we just don't do any ideation sessions, and we've got great ideas as well. But unless we're kind of constantly keeping the wheel spinning for these big ideas and good ideas, there is going to be a time when it does get a bit stale. And we're like, oh, what do you want to do? What do you want to film? Let's quickly brainstorm. Like we just want to constantly just be adding to that list and of just great ideas that we're excited about, because you can never have too many of them.
I really like how open you guys are about kind of admitting that the channel is a business and like treating it like a business and being responsible with it, and that not taking away from the fact that it does like bring that phrase. I mean, obviously you guys read business books, like the giving value thing, and like which is a great thing with that your newsletter does, is like that's just a way for you to continuously provide value for your audience, who will then be there for you to help you with views and likes and comments and all of that stuff that will help you basically run your business. But it's just nice to actually come across YouTubers who are not scared to say, because like for every single YouTuber, unless they're doing it in their spare time, it is their business. But a lot of people kind of hide that, like the dirty secret in the cupboard that they don't want to talk about.
Yeah, it seems weird as well, because like the comments don't seem to really grasp that a lot as well. Like when we did our latest brand deal with Wrigley's Extra, like there were people commenting like, oh, actually that one was overwhelmingly positive.
I loved that.
Yeah, the mid-roll like was one of the funniest things I ever like to film. But like that,
it was a sick job really, wasn't it? It's just so fun. It's so sick.
Yeah, but people are like, what? There was like 1 or 2 comments saying, why are you doing like sponsored content? We love your normal content. And it's like, me and Jamie wouldn't be able to pay ourselves a wage and live in London off of the ad revenue of the channel, right? And we're doing like 3 million views a month. Like that's just not how the economics of YouTube work. Yeah. Like so.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh, we're okay to talk about it. It's like we want to talk about it. Like we want to be very open and say, like, look, guys, we do, like, we want to make money from this. We want to feed our kids from this. We want to set ourselves up from this professionally. Like that doesn't mean that we engage with our audience any different. It doesn't compromise the quality of the content in any way, shape, or form. Like it doesn't make anything worse. It just means like we can grow financially from it. We can expand into different areas. We can pay people to set up the mailing list. We can just expand, be bigger. And like we've been about for a year and a half now with 650,000 subscribers. We've released 2 pieces of merch and they've been £15 medals. It's not like we're money grabbing and trying to rinse. It's not. We're not trying to make as much money from you guys as possible. It's not about maximizing the money we make from you just because it's ran like a business in some way. It is it's very much just like, how do we stay around, make the best content, and do this for as long as possible, happy, healthy, and all of that really. I think kind of looking at it like business, being strategic is the best way to maximize those chances.
And I think like if you can find brand partners that are willing to follow along on the journey with you, and they're not going to expect something from you that is not fitting for your channel, because it's like I don't mind watching sponsored content if I get something out of it, and like your chewing gum advert like made me fucking smile. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I watch the whole thing and I enjoy it. It's really funny, like if people leave comments of like, oh, why are you doing sponsored content? It's like if you're enjoying it, then that's cool. And like with that, like literally, what do you expect us to do? To just every day just be producing content out of the love of our hearts for you to? It's like it's just not sustainable. It's impossible. You'd go out of your mind and out of your house, and you'd be broke.
Yeah, out of a lot of things. I think as well though, like it is a really like fun creative challenge as well. Like with the brand's partners, like we were always kind of super picky, even in the like early days when we needed the money for the channel to like keep going, and the deals were a lot smaller and stuff. Like we always were handpicking the best ones that would allow us to create a fully integrated episode. And we I think we did one. It was like literally one time we did a 60-second integration. That was because we actually just loved the product and used the product. But Curve Card.
Oh, right.
But until that point, like we were asking, will you do a full episode where we can base the product or the service, whatever, around the concept of the video? And the best example of that is like the longest train ride in the UK video. They just wanted a 60-second shout out, and we were like, no, can we like use your service and go from where is it, Land's End to
John O'Groats to Land's End.
And that was like that was like a 15-minute ad for them, and like they literally were so baffled at how well it worked because we showed the value proposition throughout the entire thing as opposed to just something that you'd skip. So yeah, branded content's fun. Like it is actually fun, and like working with cool brands as well is like an exciting thing, because that Wrigley's video was like the biggest budget thing we've ever been a part of. Like genuinely, it felt like a TV series. It was like hidden camera crews set in Chelsea. We hired like an entire restaurant, and like it was was mind blowing to be a part of. Like it was really cool.
Yeah, half of the production budget of that thing was like what we got paid. So that we got paid, and half of that was the production budget. Like that's a good thing where like brands can open up video ideas which you can't kind of financially do without brands. So you're actually getting a better content while it's sponsored, and the brands, instead of getting a shout out which makes the content which the kind of viewers are watching it for worse, they're making it better. So you're almost getting better, like a response. And like, the reason, my head's not really working, but like the reason why the viewers are there, you're enhancing, you're a part of that journey. You get brownie points for that.
Are you two quite different? Because one thing that me and Ad sort of always say to people in terms of like business advice is like to partner with people who are like their strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa. And obviously you guys are best mates and you live together and you do the channel and everything together, but like how similar are your personalities?
Yeah, I'd say we're the same but different. Like I'd say our like philosophy and attitude toward life is pretty much exactly the same. Like last night we were literally just we were kind of like just debating stupid stuff like conspiracy theories, like Jamie slide tackling the Queen, would he be able to do it or not? Like and we were just like the whole time. My girlfriend was like the voice of reason, or like the person on the other side of the fence, and the whole time she was like, "Why are you two always like against me?" It's like, yeah, we just kind of think the same about those things, but I don't think we would. Yeah, the channel and its content is based around that philosophy that we kind of like believe we're living the best time to be alive, and like as a result, we're gonna try and make as much from this current time as we possibly can. But
I think it's the core things, isn't it? It's like the core values, core belief is there. We both want to have like a positive impact on the world. We both want to make money and grow financially and professionally. We want to have a great time while we're doing it. We both kind of believe the world is made of people that aren't any smarter than us. Like we can have a big impact on the world. Like if we come up with a great business idea, that could be the Airbnb, that could be the next Uber, that could be absolutely game changing and change the face of how people work and travel or whatever. Like we believe those companies and that change isn't brought around. Like there's no secret crazy fucking formula of how that came about. Like it is just good product, right team, right money, right strategy. Like we believe that all of those things are kind of obtainable. And that's kind of why it works. And like we're both quite good at coming up with ideas. We're both quite good at like analysing the space. I think if someone was to say like the exact opposite of me, it'd be proper details orientated. It'd be maybe risk averse, and we don't really have that. But we have got a producer who works for us who is really good on the details, who does just love getting the shit done. So yeah, although we may not have that, like we've got someone in the team who does.
So if there's someone listening who's just like a solo person, would you recommend that they try and get someone to come on board and help them from the start?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think it's if you've got like we're in a privileged position where we knew quite a lot of like good people our age because we were on this entrepreneurship course who just think in kind of an entrepreneurial way. But I think if I was just in Manchester on my own, I wouldn't want a business. But I wouldn't spend half my time looking for a business co-founder and all my mates are in the pub or watching the footy and stuff like that. So and I think the higher up you get in like the professional world or even success, or people will start noticing you a bit more, and then like better people will come into your life. And that's maybe when you can start looking at partners for it. So I don't think you have to wait until you've got the perfect team. Like if you've got people around you, or even people who are doing different stuff and you really appreciate, send them a message and say, hey, look, I'd love to just be on your map. I'd look this is what I'm doing. Watch out for me. I love what you're doing, and just kind of be on as many people's maps as possible. And as you kind of progress, that's when inbound kind of opportunities and conversations will happen.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we did with Yes Theory. That's what Max did with us. Yeah, like Kyra, who we partnered with at the start of this year. Like they were on our radar for a long time. Jamie met with the co-founder, was pestering the co-founders, and there was no reason why they would meet us. Like we weren't a monetizable channel at the time, but we knew that they were kind of like best in class for like branded video content, and we wanted to be a part of that in whatever way really. And yeah, like as a result of just like making those connections, throwing shit out there, we've kind of been brought into that agreement, and yeah, but especially in like YouTube, like I feel like there's more of a community feel where people are willing to help out the smaller guys like early on because they can really relate to that. And yesterday was that for like me. They commented on a video when I was on 30,000 subscribers on my personal channel, and I just kind of like shot my shot and got on the call with them somehow, and I was literally baffled because like I watched their content for so long before that, and that seemed like they were like unattainable, but they were at 250,000 subscribers at the time. So like, we try and like think that now with like who is out there that we're kind of respecting what they're doing and kind of like consciously showing like love and support to those guys, because like that shit like can literally be the difference between like early days just packing it in.
You need those wins, don't you? You need them small wins from big creators. And that we've got 2 TikTokers in America who kind of were introduced to us, and like they absolutely love to get on a phone, and we're just like, yeah, man, we'll do it. And because of the time difference, it's been difficult to organise. And I don't know, for us, we just kind of, the channel's just grown. Like we've not changed, we've not like done anything that different really. But it is quite crazy to think of that's how we perceive Yes Theory, as these massive American YouTube channels who are massive and big. And now they're just kind of our friends, and they're at 5.5 million subscribers. But we're at 3 times the level or 2 times the level that they were when we thought they were massive. So yeah, it's quite weird. It's quite weird that.
Are you guys on TikTok?
We're trying.
Yeah.
Was it Zach and Jay show?
Yeah, the Zach and Jay show.
Okay, cool. I'll find you because I love that app. I think it's wicked. I'm on there, so I'll give you a follow. So Jamie, you kind of mentioned their values and you kind of touched on your why, and like I've always thought that your why and mine and Adam and Creative Rebels why is really similar. We're just going about it in a really like different way, because our thing is like empowering creatives, letting them realize that whatever they want to do for a job, like they can do something fun and they don't have to do something that they hate. What do you think is like the main thing that's holding most people back, and what advice would you give them to overcome that?
I think the big thing to me is having like a bias to action. So Jeff Bezos has got like 14 leadership principles which are worth checking out, and it's kind of like the company culture. And one of them is have a bias to action. So if you're unsure about whether or not to do something, you'd normally create excuses where you'd be like, oh no, it's better off not to do it for whatever reason. And all these kind of excuses will come in, and they're all perfectly rational. But if you just train yourself and say, go on and take the action, you're either going to get results that you wouldn't expect it to get, which is positive. You get that it was what you wanted, or you're going to experience something and it not work out, but you're going to learn from that experience that can then inform the future. So a bias to action is always quite a good one. I think that's probably the main thing, is just constantly be moving, constantly be doing stuff. Like and our kind of why is we're living the best time in the world to be alive. So let's all just take advantage of it in all angles. So there's never been a time where you can own a camera, own a laptop, and fuck around and make good money and portray a good message. And your parents don't get it. You don't have a boss. Your uncle doesn't get it, but you're doing it anyway, and it's working really well for you. And there's never, and that's the same across so many different areas. Like, you've never been able to reach out to creative people that you admire at the click of a button so instantly. And you don't have to be someone big to do it. You can just say, hey, really like your work, watch out for me, or I'd love to do things with you, and just plant so many different seeds. So bias to action, and just get after it. Just do as much as you can and take advantage of the tools that we've got, which seem super normal to us, but when you think about how powerful they are, they're kind of unbelievable.
Get after it. Boom. Amazing. Where can people find you guys online?
Go on, plug it.
The Zach and Jay Show. So type in the Zach and Jay Show on YouTube, just Zach and Jay on Instagram, TikTok, the Zach and Jay Show. RedTube is Blue Sofa 2 guys. I'm just kidding. Just Zach and Jay. You'll find us somewhere.
Amazing.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Thanks for that. Good to catch up.
Hey guys, before you go, we've got a competition for you. Every week, as part of our Adobe partnership, we're giving away a free mentor session with myself and David, and a year's subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud. The 4 runners up every week also get another year's subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud. Inspired by our awesome guests today, Zach and Jay, we want you to get vlogging with Adobe Premiere Rush. From lifestyle to traveling, we want you to create a 30-second vlog about yourself or your passion. You can submit your blog on Instagram and use the hashtag AdobeXCreativeRebels for a chance to win. The winner will be selected by myself and David 2 weeks from the day this video goes live. So let's get creating. If you don't have the Creative Cloud yet, you can go to creativerebels.co/Adobe for a free trial. And remember, always be creating. See ya!